Say the word walk around your dog. Go ahead, try it. Something happens, right? A head tilt, the ears go up, maybe the tail starts going. Maybe they're already at the door. But here's the question scientists have been fighting over for decades. Does your dog actually understand the word walk? Or are they just picking up on something else entirely? Because there's a huge difference between understanding a word and reacting to a sound. And figuring out which one dogs are doing, that turns out to be one of the most fascinating puzzles in animal science.
Before we dive into the research, we need to get clear on something. There are two very different things that could be happening when your dog reacts to a word. One, they recognize the sound, like a trigger. That sound equals good thing happening. No real meaning attached, just pattern matching. Two, they actually understand the word as a symbol. They connect it to a concept, the way you and I do. For a long time, scientists assumed dogs were only doing option one. Just Pavlov's dogs, bells and drool and conditioned responses. Then a dog named Chaser showed up, and everything changed.
Chaser was a border collie trained by retired psychology professor John Pilley in South Carolina. Over 3 years, Pilley spent 4 to 5 hours every single day teaching Chaser the names of objects, toys mostly. Each one had a unique name. By the end, Chaser knew the names of 1,022 individual objects. 1,022! That's more than most 3-year-old children can reliably identify. But here's what made scientists sit up straight. When Pilley asked Chaser to fetch Darwin from a pile of 20 toys she'd never seen before, she picked the new one by process of elimination. She knew the names of the others, so the unknown one must be Darwin. That's not just sound recognition. That's logic. That's inference. That's something scientists call fast mapping, the same ability human children use to learn new words.
In 2016, a team of researchers in Budapest did something incredible. They trained dogs to lie completely still inside an MRI brain scanner, no sedation, totally voluntary, and then played them recordings of their trainer's voice. The trainer said things in 4 different combinations: meaningful words in a praising tone, meaningful words in a flat tone, meaningless words in a praising tone, and meaningless words in a flat tone. And here's what happened inside the dog's brain. The left hemisphere, the same side humans use to process the meaning of words, activated specifically for meaningful words, regardless of tone. The reward center of the brain only lit up when both the word and the tone were positive. In other words, dogs process words and tone separately, just like us. Saying good boy in a flat voice, the dog hears the praise word, but it doesn't fully land. Saying random nonsense in an excited voice, the dog enjoys the energy, but it knows something's off. The full hit,
Good boy.
the real reward, only comes when the meaning and the emotion match. That's not a simple animal. That's a remarkably sophisticated listener.
Now, before you run home and start having full conversations with your dog, let's talk about the limits. Because dogs absolutely do not understand sentences the way we do. When you say, "We're going to go for a walk later after dinner if the weather's okay," your dog is not processing that sentence. They're scanning it, like a search engine, looking for the keywords they know. WALK. That's the one that registers. Everything else is background noise. This is why you can spell out WALK and confuse your dog for a little while, until they learn to recognize that pattern too. Dogs also struggle with negatives. Don't jump. The word jump registers clearly. The don't part, much less so. Which is why telling a dog what not to do is often far less effective than telling them what to do. Their vocabulary is real, but their grammar, basically non-existent. They understand words, not language. There's a meaningful difference. Let's talk about the head tilt. Because it's not just adorable, it's actually evidence of something fascinating. Dogs hear at much higher frequencies than humans, but human speech, especially vowels, sits in a range that can actually be harder for some dogs to isolate clearly. The head tilt? It's the dog physically repositioning one ear to better capture the sound source. They're trying to hear you more clearly. They're trying to understand. A 2021 study found something even more specific. Dogs who had learned to associate object names with actual objects, like Chaser, tilted their heads far more often when they heard a familiar word than dogs who hadn't learned object names. The head tilt, in those dogs, appeared to be linked to mental processing, like they were searching their memory for what the word meant. The smarter the listener, the more the tilt. Next time your dog tilts its head at you, they're not being cute. Well, they are, but they're also working hard.
Here's the thing that makes all of this even more remarkable. Dogs didn't evolve to understand wolves. They evolved to understand us. Over roughly 15,000 years of living alongside humans, dogs developed something no other animal on Earth has to the same degree: an almost obsessive attunement to human communication. They track our eye movements. They follow our pointing fingers. Even very young puppies do this, which wolves raised by humans can't reliably do. They read our facial expressions, they respond to our tone, and as we now know, they process our words. Dogs are not just pets. They are, in a very real sense, the result of thousands of years of co-evolution with the human voice. They were shaped by us to hear us. Which makes you wonder, when you talk to your dog and they look at you with those focused, intent eyes, maybe they're understanding more than we give them credit for. Or maybe they're just waiting for the word treat. Honestly, probably both.
So, do dogs really understand human words? Yes, some of them, more than we thought, but not the way we do. They process words and tones separately, using the same brain architecture we do. They can learn hundreds of object names. They use logic to figure out new words. And that head tilt, it's them genuinely trying to listen harder. Here's one practical thing you can take from this video. Match your words and your tone, always, because your dog is listening to both. And the real reward in their brain only comes when both are telling the same story. Good dog, said like you mean it. That's the whole thing. Drop a comment. What word does your dog know that always gets a reaction? I want to see the list. And subscribe, because next week we're going somewhere even deeper into the dog mind. Can dogs actually smell human emotions? Not just stress, but specific feelings like fear, sadness, and joy? The answer is yes. And the science behind how is genuinely one of the most mind-bending things I've ever read. See you there.